for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world on HBO pay-per-view. Ladies and gentlemen, from Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas, let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to the Fantasy Fight Night podcast. I am your host, Andy Heidemann. This is my other fabulous host, Adam Kurt. If you would like to check out more stuff that we're in, you can check us out. We both are hosts of other podcasts. I host Bet Bath & Beyond. Adam hosts the Kurt Crew Fantasy Podcast. You can listen to this podcast and those podcasts wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. If you want a shot at winning a free NFL jersey, courtesy of B3T Sports, check out b3tsports.com/contest. Also, give us a follow on Twitter. I am at Andy Heidemann. He is at AdamSki Fantasy, and the show is at Fantasy Fight Night.
And just you say this every week. It's not the Kurt Crew Fantasy Podcast. It is the Kurt Crew Fantasy Football Podcast.
Oh, it's the Kurt Crew Fantasy Football Podcast.
KKFFP4. It's all right.
There you
Twitter.
go. So. At Twitter. And actually, I interact with that. I try to use I run the socials for the B3T and the other stuff, and I interact with you guys' stuff on Twitter all the time. So they are very active.
Are we? Because I have no idea. I don't run it.
You post your episodes, and Zach is also very active.
Yeah, I have that auto set to post on publish, so that makes it pretty easy.
You want to hop right into our stat of the week?
Sure. So my stat of the week is, this guy was a stud out there catching the ball, 9 targets, 9 receptions, 101 yards, a touchdown. And he also ran the ball 11 times. His name is Darrell Williams for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had 9 targets. Okay. CEH has never had that money.
I want to talk about
that. Oh, my gosh.
No. And that's what I want to talk about, because is this a good sign for that? Because they won, too. They didn't just win, either. Like, they scored. Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdown passes. This is the best they've looked offensively all season.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. And
so when Clyde comes, because Clyde's set to come back next week, in week 11.
Yeah. He's set to come back. He was practicing this week. He was close to playing. He'll be back next week. They got back to fundamentals. They involved Travis Kelce early. The safeties had to step down to try and help with that. And then they were able to get some shot plays. All they had to do was be patient, win underneath consistently. All of a sudden, as soon as one of them had to step down to worry about somebody underneath, they were able to hit some shot plays. Darrell Williams made an incredible touchdown grab. But Mahomes was throwing dimes all day. Now, there were 4 turnover-worthy plays that the Raiders did not come up with any of them. So it could have gone a whole lot differently. But the Chiefs chiefed.
Yeah, which is like, I'm not going to expect it from now, but they still have the potential, and it was good to see that, because after 4 weeks in a row going, the Chiefs will figure it out. The Chiefs will figure it out. And they don't. You do start to worry. You start to wonder, at what point do I have to not give them the benefit of the doubt anymore? And it's good to see that they still have that in them.
Yeah.
My stat of the week: Josh Allen. He is the number 1 rated deep guy on yards or on passes that are 10+ yards. He has a 73% completion percentage and 16 touchdowns. That's first in both of those categories. Josh Allen is balling out. If we're talking MVP right now, who is your vote for MVP currently? Because I thought last week it'd be really easy to say Lamar. Not that he was running away with it, but before the Miami game. Now I feel like it's still kind of anyone's race, right?
Mike Vrabel.
You think so?
Yeah.
They're winning games. They're winning tough games, and I'm excited to see what that team does. I don't think they can make a deep run unless like Henry is like he's gonna come back and be.
This should have been the
healthy.
stat of the week. The Tennessee Titans have used 82 different players. Okay, so on an active NFL roster on a given week, on a given Sunday, you can have 48. Typically on your roster you have 53. You put 5 inactive. Most of them are injuries. That yada yada yada. Third string quarterback. Blah blah blah. The Titans have used 82 players this year, so almost 2 full rosters worth. And
Gotta rotate them
the
out.
record in a season is 84. We're halfway through.
Oh.
And this is not.
We're halfway
This is
through
not.
the
This is not
longest
like.
season
This
in
is
the
not
NFL.
like next gen stats. This is not of an era. This is NFL period. The end. They are halfway through the season, and they have used this many players, and they are the number 1 seed in the NFC. There's no one better in the NFL right now than Mike Vrabel.
Good for the Titans. Are you? By the way, speaking of great football, there is a game going on right now. Do you have anything riding on the Monday night game?
No, I've either locked up or lost. But there are a couple things that I would wish to swing, like you losing in our Dynasty League. I don't think it's going to happen.
I would very much like. I don't think it's going to
I don't
happen
think
either.
it is. Trevor's going to lose, and I'm nervous because Evan should have a win locked up, and I don't know if he's still on his honeymoon because he started Chase Claypool.
He is coming back. I want to say tomorrow, so I think he might be able to. I don't know if maybe he thought he would play. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think he was available to look at it, so I thought he left that up to your discretion. But right now, Matt Gay needs 2 points, and they faked that stupid field goal, and that would have iced it. And it's like that would be very helpful for my playoff push.
I'm currently, this week's looking good for me. I'm gonna go 8 for 10 in my leagues. There are a couple that are up in the air a little bit, but they'd be like miracle plays, like for the other team for me to win. The other 2, I've already lost, guaranteed out. That one of them's the Megalo Bowl, and one of them's in my 3 QB 3 tight end league. So, let's see here. You want to go over news, notes, things we got going on?
Sure, we can do news and notes. So, first one, it's happening right now. Odell Beckham Jr. is part of the Rams, and he's playing a significant role on top of that because Robert Woods tore his ACL.
Now, they said that happened on Friday, but I didn't see any reports of it.
Yeah, it's weird. It sounds like at the end of practice, Woods tore it, and then they were going to do tests and all that stuff, but they didn't make it public.
Right. Well, and to be clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with. I mean, especially like if you don't know. I mean, there's no point in getting up in front of the press going, he might or might not have torn his ACL.
Yeah. I think they played some gamesmanship, and they told Odell the truth. I think they said Robert Woods just went down. You're going to slot in as our number 2. This is why we're going to pay you $4.5 million to take this role.
So I'm curious to see how that goes the rest of the year. I mean, I'm assuming I didn't see the exact numbers. Is it a 1-year deal?
Yeah, it's a 1-year deal, but they're open to extending him and Von Miller. So
sure, but if Odell has a dud of a year this year, like in this current, he's the number 2 to obviously Cooper Kupp. I mean, does he play in the NFL as a number 1 in capacity ever again? Yeah. You still would think so, even if he has a dud this year? That's crazy.
Nothing about the Browns. Like, they came out and did well without him the first week, and then they got blown out. He is the true difference maker that was on that offense. He was the only guy who could take over a game, and he can still do that, but they just weren't ever needing him to.
I think Nick Chubb could take over a game.
I was thinking more of outside receiver, but
sure.
A weapon in the passing game. Like, if you're down, Nick Chubb is one of the best at keeping a league, icing a game. He wears you down. He's brutal. You make one mistake and he's going 80 yards. Odell Beckham is one of those receivers who can make a play to get you back into a game.
Yeah, he could house a slant route.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
just
somebody
one of
that you
those guys.
want
But
in the playoffs.
sure. But again, like, I guess I'm more wondering. Obviously the Browns, that wasn't a great fit for him. This is a great fit for
Absolutely.
him because he will be the 2. He's going to have Matthew Stafford. I'm just curious. Like, if he has really poor performances from here all the way through the rest of the season, they probably won't extend him. And I'm curious. I mean, you're right. Somebody will probably sign him, but no one's going to sign him as, like, the hopes of him being a
Man, if we
one
let
again.
Robinson walk and Odell Beckham Jr. comes in at a discount and we can sign him to like a 3-year deal, only
Sure.
worth $10 million as opposed to paying Robinson $15, I'd take it. Absolutely, I'd smash. You put him,
Sure.
have Darnell be able to run the deep stuff. Yeah, I think that's great for the team.
Second up, Barkley. He is trending towards playing in Week 11. That's not really a shock. I mean, they held him out a fair amount. Hopefully, he is healthy the rest of the season because his hamstring, or not his hamstring, his knee was much better when we got toward the end of the season, or before we got to the end of his ankle injury starting up, and now he's been out for 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And if he comes back playing like he was at the end of that, I'm going to be very happy. It's going to be tough. Everyone calls him a bust because obviously he's been hurt and he started slow. He's going to have to do a lot to get people to be in the good graces of people again, but I like Barkley in Week 11. Patterson sprained his ankle.
Yeah, that one sucks.
That one does suck.
He sprained it
He's been a
early
superstar.
too. Like, people thought he had a dud game, and he did. But he was hurt in the first quarter. They were trying to use him as a decoy, doing anything that they could. But you saw how much Wayne Gallman was used, and it's because Patterson was hurt significantly.
Colt McCoy, he did leave he left the Panthers game with a strained pec. They're saying that he'll probably play if he needs to. That they're probably optimistic that Kyler will be back.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, also just like Barkley, likely to play in Week 11.
Yep.
Aaron Jones is out 1 to 2 weeks with an
Yeah,
MCL
we'll see
sprain.
more.
That's actually
more on that. I just wait on more information on that.
What else we got? Chase Young. This isn't necessarily fantasy relevant, but I mean that defense is already not amazing.
Yeah, I mean it really.
But
Washington hasn't been great on defense. Montez Sweat also fractured his jaw. He's probably going to go on IR as well. If they haven't put him there already, I don't pay attention too much to defensive transactions. But if he's already on there, you're looking at
Right.
2 elite pass rushers gone, and that was the strength of their defense. Which everything else was falling apart on the back end. And if the one thing that you were good at is gone, that defense is just going to
you're gonna have to
hemorrhage
redefine,
points.
Yeah. Tua set to start against the Jets. That's good news. Hopefully that finger's progressing in the right direction. He did play some in the last game against the Ravens, so I'm not really worried about that. Monitor that throughout the week.
I think it matters for the Dolphins' weapons.
Sure.
But
I mean, I agree. I if he's healthy to go, I like them a lot
Yeah.
better than if it's Brissett. Chris McCaffrey, he left the game, went to the tent for his hamstring. It looked precautionary.
it was not
but
for his hamstring.
Oh, what was
So
it for?
the announcer said that it was for his hamstring. He got hit in the head, and from upstairs in the booth, they said that he needed to go to the tent.
They made him.
So they made him go
That's
get
way better.
evaluated. He came back out, nothing to do with his hamstring, so he's fine.
See, when he went in there for the hamstring, I was very upset because I was like, I can't believe that he's hurt again. Blah blah blah. But then he came out and he looked fine, so I was like, okay, maybe it was just like precautionary. But now, obviously, as you're saying, I'm finding out that it was just precautionary head injury. That's good. Now they did something. He still was a top running back this week, but he did not. He normally plays 90% of snaps. He definitely did not.
He
do
did
that this week.
59,
wanna
I
say,
believe.
Yeah. Which, I mean, and he still did
Yeah, but
great.
150 yards and 10 catches.
Yeah. But no, I mean, trust me. It's not like you're gonna take a hit probably on the ceiling when you aren't on the field as much as he was. I mean, we're talking 45-point games from this guy, and you probably won't get those nearly as much if this is his new snap percentage. Doesn't mean you're not going to get 20, 22, 25-point games from him almost every week just because of who he is. So keep that in mind. But and then Baker, he suffered a knee injury. There's probably more updates on that. I haven't heard anything new. He didn't finish that game. Monitor that. Keenum might be a guy worth picking up if you're in a really, really tough spot, and you absolutely have. But they don't have any wide receivers either, so it's
yeah, Baker, he has so many injuries. I would be
he might go IR, or he could even have the shoulder
really
surgery, depending
the
on
problem is they're trying to push for the playoffs, but he needs rest. He's so beat up. It's just a whole bunch of little things, but he can't do anything elite, and because of these little injuries, I mean, it literally is. I don't know that he comes back and they sign him to an extension.
Which I mean, and that's got to be in his mind too. That's part of the reason he's pushing, because if he's like, I get them to the playoffs again, I can say in my contract negotiations, before me, you were here. After me, you've been to the playoffs twice. You know what I'm saying? And if he goes on IR, it probably is going to hurt his future contract talk. So. Alrighty, so we're going to move into the top fives of the week. We're going to go over the top 5 scorers at each position. Obviously, the Rams game is still going on tonight, Monday Night Football, so these are subject to change. But as of right now, these are it. They're based on half-point scoring. And we're going to start with QB. Is it 1, Patrick Mahomes, 2, Dak Prescott, 3, Josh Allen, 4, Mac Jones, and 5, Trevor Siemian. That was started off strong.
Yeah, that's what you would expect. Jalen Hurts is just behind in this, but Lamar had a dud week.
Kind of, yeah. Not what you expect from Lamar. He still scored, I want to say, 16, 17 points, right?
But yeah, that was because he ran the ball for a whole bunch. He really was not good passing. Mahomes was 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's Mahomes. I don't know that the Chiefs are back. I don't know if this helped them, I think, get back towards their roots. Travis Kelce, I think, is going to be the focal point of that offense going forward because he really hadn't been who they go to first. Dak Prescott, they annihilated the Falcons. Annihilated. So
yeah, Dan Quinn wanted to show that he knows how to hold a lead, I think, is what that was.
Yeah.
We already talked a little bit about Josh Allen. Josh Allen plays great football almost every single week. He looked great here. He didn't even run one in for a touchdown. He just threw 2. But 366 yards, 21 completions.
Mm-hmm.
But Mac Jones.
Yeah. Mac
Jones might be the best rookie quarterback.
He was the most NFL ready, but he was the least physically gifted. Nobody, any sound analyst would understand that. He was the most ready to be in the NFL. He also got to the best situation. He fell furthest in the draft, meaning he went to a team that was the most ready. Now you would say Trey Lance with the Niners, but they traded up.
The Niners are cooked. I think Kyle Shanahan.
They know how to beat the Rams. That I will give them that, because that's what they're doing, and they beat them 4 times in a row. So,
and then Trevor Siemian, I guess, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, almost 300 yards, 2 yards shy of 300 yards.
Yep,
good for him.
That'll do it. And you can throw on the Titans. It's just you get sacked a whole bunch against them, and you can't run on them.
One thing that we didn't talk about in the news and notes, but while we're talking about quarterbacks, Cam Newton was signed by the Carolina Panthers, and they threw him into some packages. He's going to probably be the starter next week. I really
have him further down in the ads. Talk about free agent, waiver wire.
And I'm really excited to talk about that. But anyway, you want to go through the wide receivers, the top 5 wide receivers?
Sure. So there's Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Kendrick Bourne, Justin Jefferson. So one of these things is not like the other. All those names you're going, okay, those are elite. And then you're like, Kendrick Bourne. 4 targets, 4 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Now, depending on the format.
That's who he is, though.
Yeah, he's actually been their number 1 wide receiver. And depending on your format, he's basically a wide receiver 3. Mac Jones has been dealing, and Kendrick Bourne has been benefiting from that. So, he had probably the second best touchdown catch on the week. I'm going to say Darrell Williams was better.
Yeah.
Just because if he's a running back and it was way
one,
downfield.
yeah.
But Kendrick Bourne, in between two guys, Mac Jones put it exactly where it had to be at. Got sandwiched, came down with it. Diggs did Diggs things. This is what they were last year. Let's give him 13 targets. He's going to get a whole bunch of yards and potential score. When you're averaging 20 yards per catch, that's insane. CeeDee Lamb, only 7 targets, 6 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Left early with a arm bruise, arm contusion, and that's fine because they were so well in hand at that point.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. And nobody else really.
Because I did want to mention CeeDee Lamb. Right, CeeDee Lamb and Kendrick Bourne, both under 45% snap share. The CeeDee Lamb news. That's because of his arm, right? That's the reason he had such a low snap percentage. Kendrick Bourne, that's just the kind of player he is.
They go so much in heavy tight end sets.
Right.
And then you have, they'll put Aguilar on the outside and run him deep, and have 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. So it's.
I thought Aguilar would be much more involved this year. I really did. That's been
he's had a couple touchdowns called back.
Now.
But that,
Well, also, not that people were breaking the bank to draft him. He was going late, but I thought that he was a steal because any number 1 wide receiver going that late, I don't care if it's a rookie quarterback, that's a good value in my eyes. But he really hasn't been.
Well, Aguilar, you knew what he was. He was a speedster. You hoped he would be the guy to burn. They paid him a lot, I think, just to take the top off of defenses. Keep them honest. You signed a couple tight ends. You signed a couple. You signed Kendrick Bourne, who can do a little bit of both. And Jacoby Myers, who is that possession move the sticks guy. So they really did the things that were really good.
Got a touchdown this week.
He finally got a touchdown. Good for you, Jacoby Myers. Speaking of touchdowns, Tyreek Hill had 2 of them. They weren't really deep, but 10 targets, 7 catches, 83 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's going to pan out well when you're getting 10 targets from Patrick Mahomes. And we'll see.
Yeah,
he didn't get a deep bomb.
Tyreek Hill, I expect that.
Yeah, he didn't get a deep bomb, and I think that was a big thing. They've involved him underneath and let him use his speed, and I think that they're going to really focus on getting underneath and letting Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill beat people with their talents, because right now they're playing all that 2 deep safety. All right, come up and try and stop these guys. So I enjoy it. Kendrick Bourne was interesting.
As for
and then Justin Jefferson, they said let's get him.
Sorry, folks. I think we have a little bit of a delay.
Justin Jefferson. They said we need to get him more targets, so they were like, here, have 11, and it resulted in 143 yards and just a whole bunch of ridiculous catches. He's an exceptional wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And really, he's second year. Third year is really when they get into that next level wide receiver. You see a lot of them jump in fantasy football production, but in the third year is where you really see these receivers establish and take over. So he's only going up from here. So
I don't know how the people in the film room and the people watching these games for review for the coaches and all the staff don't look at this and go, we need to get him 11 targets or 10 targets every single week. It's crazy to me. But anyway, 2 running backs for 1 through 5. We had Williams, Stevenson, McCaffrey, Taylor, and Gibson. Williams is a surprise to me. He has the potential. It's the same kind of deal with any running back in that offense. They've got the potential just because of the offense. So, Stevenson, though, I was really high on him if one of their backs wasn't able to play. And he produced 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. They gave him the ball 20 times. I have this mixed around. On our doc, that's funny. On our doc here, I have McCaffrey getting 95 attempts. He didn't get 95 attempts. He played 90. He had 13 attempts.
Yeah.
There we go. But McCaffrey's still 7.31 yards a carry.
Yeah, he's still the best
I just
fantasy asset in football.
but he didn't. He's the number 3 running back in the week. Not a single touchdown. So I mean, he was close twice, but no touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor looked like he was gonna have a monster game in the first half. And
I said after that he had 6 rushes for 72 yards, and I said he's gonna break the record today. I mean, there's no way he doesn't. I mean, it was like they had 6 minutes left in the first quarter. I'm like, they're just gonna run this guy into the ground. They didn't give him the ball again until like the end of the game.
And let me tell you, that looked like it hurt him because the Jags were able to claw back into it. I mean, they didn't win, but it was close, way closer than that game should have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Antonio Gibson, we kind of saw this coming. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, but if he didn't have those touchdowns, he'd have had a bad game. He had 2 catches for 14 yards, and then he had 24 attempts for 64 yards. It's the Bucs. It's really hard to run the Bucs. We know that. But 2 touchdowns made it so it was really nice for him. I'm really optimistic. 24 attempts makes me think that they believe he's healthy.
Him having the bye week, him getting 24 attempts, and in a positive game script, I think that they're going to be like, we can get in a positive game script with this guy, and stay there with this guy. So,
You want to hit tight ends?
Sure, tight ends. Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry, Mark Andrews, Tyler Conklin, and Gerald Everett.
Tyler Conklin finds himself here more often than I would have guessed.
He gets, this week it doesn't show, but he's averaging he's getting 7 targets, 4 or 5 catches. So that is.
He's got touchdowns.
He's consistent. Well, he really hasn't. He had 2 touchdowns this week that doubled his career total. So he actually has a fantastic floor.
Wait, really? He only had 2 touchdowns on this season so far?
No, he only had 1. He had 1 last year.
I feel like he.
Yeah.
Oh.
But he's.
Is that true?
Yes, it is. He has
That's
4
insane.
career touchdowns. Yeah, Travis Kelce had a Travis Kelce game even without a touchdown. 8 catches,
My gosh, you're right.
19
That's
yards. Hunter Henry, he's doing what Hunter Henry does for the Patriots. I'm just going to score a touchdown, get 40 yards. And this week he had 2, so he's...
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, he's a fantastic... Just plug him in there, he just scores. And, aside from, they played the Bills twice, have the Titans, but half their remaining schedule is kind of cupcake. I would anticipate him being good. Then Mark Andrews, oh, man, getting him for someone like Josh Jacobs would be an absolute steal. SMA, Ian, SMA.
Mark Andrews has done really well.
He's the number 2 tight end on the year.
Really well.
He's been.
Cole Kmet.
They paid him, and their team. It drives me nuts. Marquise Brown was getting all these looks, and it's like they were running everyone up the middle of the field. Marquise Brown they were getting blitzing everyone. It's like, just throw it to Andrews. You have Andrews versus Holland, and it's like Andrews is literally 40 pounds heavier and 6 inches taller. Like, just throw it to him every single play on those blitzes. But he still turned out with a fantastic game, but they have potential to involve him so much more in that offense. Again, we talked about Conklin. He only had 5 targets, 3 receptions, 11 yards. Typically, he's been getting 50 to 70. The double touchdown payoff worked out, but he's been a consistent floor guy. And then Gerald Everett caught all 8 of his targets. Metcalf and Lockett each got 8 targets as well, but they did not catch even half of them. So, they plan to involve him. I think that Finger was not all the way there.
Right.
So they had to find some way to move the ball. This is what they had.
Alrighty. So really quick before we move on to our next segment, I have an ad to read here for you. It's for Dynasty Pros. Go check out dynastyprosfootball.com. They've got all sorts of stuff like Devi, and they've got IDP rankings, and they're really good at both of those things. But they also do all the things you love for fantasy, and your weekly waiver wire pickups, and your trade asks, and all that sort of stuff. Go check out dynastyprosfootball.com. Start your dynasty today. We're gonna move into Game Chasers, and you've got yours listed here. You want to go through them?
Absolutely. So I made sure that I got in ahead of time because Mahomes just went off. Dak Prescott just went off. They play each other. This is either going to be the worst game of the week where it goes like 17-10, or it's going to be like 51-48. And I am really hoping it is the latter because I own a lot of Cowboys and some Chiefs. I mean, it would just be amazing.
My first one is Arizona versus Seattle. I know Seattle, they just put up the big goose egg against Green Bay. But Russ, like you just mentioned, I don't think he was feeling 100%. Give him another week, get back into it. And we're going to have a bunch of things. Like, Russ is getting healthy. DK is going to actually be able to play in the whole game. And you got Arizona, which hopefully you got Hopkins and Murray back. Because both these teams are coming off a loss to teams they probably shouldn't have lost to. Well, Green Bay is pretty good. But, I mean, again, Seattle usually puts up more of a fight. So, I just think that these guys are going to be looking to score. It's divisional. Mm-hmm. I'm all in on this kind of game.
Minnesota and Green Bay is my other one. Kirk Cousins has been wheeling and dealing. Aaron Rodgers is going to have to put up points to keep up. I don't know that they'll have Jair back, so Justin Jefferson may run wild. Dalvin Cook, they can run on him. It just seems like a good matchup for points.
And then I've got the Colts and Buffalo. I think that their offensive schemes against each other just lend well to scoring fantasy points. I think Pittman should he should just do fine. I think Taylor's obviously still going to do fine. Like, you got a lot of fantasy guys in this game that are like Diggs, and I want to see more from Knox because last week I was excited for him, and they scored a ton of points, and Knox only had like 2 catches, I want to say, for maybe 7 or 8 yards. And I've been really excited for him, and I thought he was a focal point. But I'm excited for this game from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That defense is really good for the Bills.
And that's sorry, go ahead.
And they've actually been doing really well against the run. So it'll be interesting to see if Carson Wentz can beat Tre'Davious White in that secondary.
Right. All right, so week 11 waiver wire targets. So for QBs, again, we talk about this every single week. Just because we're talking about a guy does not mean go out and sign him immediately. Doesn't mean go and pick him up. We're just going to talk about what you should spend, if they're worth it, how we want to, how you should approach this in your fantasy leagues. So for QBs, our QBs we've got are Cam Newton, Jimmy G, and Mac Jones. I'm excited for Cam Newton.
Yeah, if you have a 4-point passing league and 6-point for rushing touchdown, you absolutely have to add Cam Newton. He just has that element. I don't think he obviously doesn't have the same noodle that he has, but he's fresh. He's healthy. He stiff-armed a man into
it's the healthiest he's
into
been.
The dark realm to score a touchdown. And that's what he can do. And that defense is really good. I think they wanted to make a playoff push, and that's the reason that they brought him back. And they clearly were energized.
Absolutely.
That team loves him, are excited to have an actual quarterback back in the building. Yes, that is a shot at Sam Darnold.
Well, and it should be. Sam Darnold should never take another snap in the NFL again. I seriously, I think that he should be done. He should do himself a favor, maybe go coach high school football. Because
with Adam Gase?
I can't fathom with Adam Gase. Yes, exactly. Dynamic duo. No, when I look at this offense and I think about Cam Newton as a player, everyone also has to remember this is the best receiving core that Cam Newton has ever played with. Like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Terrace Marshall, and then Christian McCaffrey. Yep. He really has played poorly before. Like when he got injured, he wanted to play through it. His shoulder was a problem, but if he's healthy and can make some of these throws that he couldn't maybe make a year ago, but he could make 3 years ago, he can make them happen again. I don't see a reason why Cam Newton can't be like a very safe floor QB for you.
Yeah, with the rushing, that's one of the best things. So.
I see we got Jimmy G and Mac Jones on here. Mac Jones is kind of interesting. I feel like Mac Jones to me is still kind of matchup dependent.
Yeah.
But I still like him. I've played him a couple of times this season myself.
Well, he's had, I think, 2 QB1 games, and all the rest have been QB 17 or below. So, risk and reward, but those 2 QB1 weeks have been over the past 4 weeks. So with them playing some teams that they can cream and beat up on, he's interesting. He's definitely, he doesn't run the ball. That's the biggest thing that hurts him. I mean, it's not, the Niners where Jimmy G has to throw for 300 yards every week, which is why he's on there. He's been good tonight. Kittle's back involved, which, helps Jimmy G a lot. And Jimmy G loves Kittle.
Kittle would help anyone a lot, but it does. Yeah, you're right. It does help Jimmy G. So for wide receivers listed here, we've got Kendrick Bourne, Marcus Johnson, Jamal Agnew, Brian Edwards, and Van Jefferson. Where do you want to start with this?
I would say, we talked about Kendrick Bourne. He's somebody that you can put in your flex. I mean, really at this point. Jamal Agnew, when you can score 13 fantasy points without catching a pass and you're a wide receiver, that's good. That's good. It means your coach is going to find you a way to get involved. We're talking about this on the Kurt Crew Fantasy Football Podcast, and my brother Ryan pointed out, I was like, he's like Devin Hester, kind of got converted. They were figuring out how to use him late. And he's like, he's Percy Harvin. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Urban Meyer, Percy Harvin. That's how they're using him. It is. It's we thought LaVisca would be used that way. He's using Jamal Agnew that way. So even though he got 4 targets, 0 catches, he was exceptional.
We've already talked about Kendrick Bourne and like what he is. I feel like we don't really have to dive deep into that. Brian Edwards, that one's a little interesting. What are your thoughts on the way he was used last night?
Well, I think they have to get him more involved. I think they need to get him and Waller involved to give themselves a chance. I mean, you lost Ruggs, you lost Gruden, you lost a cornerback. You've had to cut players. You've had so much crap happen. This guy was highly touted. Now, granted by John Gruden, but you spent a 3rd round pick on him. He clearly has some level of competence. So
and talent. We've seen it.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I do think that the Raiders, they started hot. I didn't think the Raiders were Super Bowl contenders or anything, but I do think that the Raiders, they're emotionally, they've got to be exhausted, and that's gonna catch up with them here soon. The season's longer than it's ever been. It's unfortunate,
but I think they're gonna play in some deficits, which leads into Brian Edwards being much more involved.
As far as running backs, A.J. Dillon, 100% the number one guy. Now, I will also say, so far in the year, I haven't seen A.J. Dillon on a lot of waivers. A lot of guys have drafted Dillon and have held him just because they knew that this situation could be possible and that he would be a potential top 12 running back if Aaron Jones.
You look at a lot of statistics, though. I mean, he's like 2/3 or 3/4 owned, depending on the league. So, I mean, there is an option to get him, which is important to note. Ramondre Stevenson, you should have rostered him.
Yeah.
If he's still out there, go get him, because even if Damian Harris takes back over, they have a whole bunch of cupcake matchups. You want him to go get somebody who can step in and get 20 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Somebody that you want. The other one to bring up, Deontay Foreman. He's clearly the best runner on that team. And that's not saying a whole lot. But
But
they won a game with Derrick Henry hurt, Julio Jones on IR, and A.J. Brown had 1 catch for 16 yards.
Yep. I'm a little worried about A.J. Brown. I know that the run game makes it so he can be like one-on-one almost all the time. And without that, I know he's going to get more they're going to be more on him. But he is a freak athlete, and I do expect a little bit more out of him. He is the one there, right? He's the clear one. There's no Julio. He's not being what a lot of people drafted him to be, and it's a little disappointing. On to tight ends. We have Arnold, Conklin, and Everett. Arnold is my favorite by far.
Yep. He's getting 8 targets a game, 5. He's basically he and Agnew are the leading receivers on that team, which is crazy because Laviska, Marvin Jones, they're the guys who are getting it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Conklin, Everett. We talked about Conklin already. He's got a fairly safe floor. Everett. Everett, I'm not.
We are always looking for that third option to show up. Now, you don't want it to show up on a game where they get blanked,
right.
But it's definitely something worth being interested in, especially if your tight end starved. They might be figuring out how to integrate him. So, we'll see.
DSTs, Miami, Green Bay, Tennessee, and New Orleans. Who's your favorite here?
Tennessee. They play Houston this week. They're probably owned.
Yep. I stream anyone who's playing against Houston. You got to stream it. Even if Tyrod Taylor's playing, I'm still in on. So,
Green Bay is playing extremely well. They could,
and they don't even have their top corner.
Yeah, they could catch Minnesota off guard. So if you need somebody, it could be interesting.
Alrighty, so let's talk about our weekly DFS Showdown presented to you by B3T Sports. There's always something to bet on. Check out b3tsports.com for fantasy, gambling, NFT, and crypto-related news. All right, so last week, I actually won my DFS bracket. I got first out of 222 people. It was very fun.
I bet.
My lineup was Bateman as the captain, Lamar, Andrews, Waddle, Gesicki, and then the Dolphins DST.
Yeah, that Dolphins DST one.
Yeah, that's the.
I picked the wrong DST.
Yeah, that was like, me and you talk about it every single week when it comes to DFS. It's like you got to get that one pick. You can go 4 for 5 or 5 for 6, and it doesn't matter. You've really got to go 6 for 6 if you want to.
Yeah, because you could get through the Gesicki thing because a lot of people pick Gesicki, but
right. All right, so who did you... Oh, I see you filled out... Oh, you picked the Pats defense as your captain for this week, huh?
I did. Cordero Patterson's not going to play. Calvin Ridley is not eligible to return off of the list. So you're telling me that Bill Belichick, who knows how to take one guy off the field, that's Kyle Pitts. So
yep.
Who else do they have?
True.
You want to put out Mike Davis? You want to put out Wayne Gallman? They're great against the run. Russell Gage, Oladipo Zaccheaus.
Russell Gage, those are your...
Yeah, that doesn't scare me at all if I'm Bill Belichick. I'm watching the Carolina Panthers tape against the Falcons and going, I can stop Kyle Pitts by doing this. And that's it. That's all they have. So I am anticipating. I mean, the Cowboys defense just went off on the Falcons. Bill Belichick's running that tape up and is going to pummel them.
I hate my captain, but that's just because I'm taking Mike Davis as my captain.
This is the stupidest of stupid takes.
I'm really banking on him. Nope, I'm banking on him falling into the end zone twice. Like that's they get to the goal line and they can't finish because you're right. Who are they going to throw to? I'm hoping that Mike Davis can find the end zone.
It's going to be Wayne Gallman.
And then who are your remaining 5 guys?
So I have Kendrick Bourne.
That will be sad, but I could totally
Russell
see
Gage, Hunter Henry, Mac Jones. So a lot of Patriots, and you have to have a Falcons player. So I went with Russell Gage because I think that he's. I think Pitts is going to get blanked, and I think he's the next best option. And then I do have this one contingent. So if Stevenson plays, if Damian Harris does not play, I will be playing Stevenson. If Damian Harris does play, I will be playing. I will just play a little bit of the ladder game of if Damian Harris starts, I'm going to start him instead of Ramondre Stevenson. I'm genuinely contemplating. I'm still thinking about. I wanted to be able to start both, but without knowing that I still have some money left over.
It's really tough.
So without knowing it, I would love to be able to start both of them because I think that Pats are going to kill him on a short week without Patterson.
My remaining picks, I got Matt Ryan, Stevenson, Myers, Henry, and then Gage. And I'm kind of same boat. Stevenson is in there now, but if Damian Harris is starting, I'm going to reassess and kind of take a look. The reason I've got Matt Ryan and Gage in here together is because I don't think a lot of people are starting them, and my captain's already so out there that I feel like if let's say Matt Ryan and Gage go off for 2 touchdowns each, that's a stack that not a lot of people will have. I think I can at least get money back.
See, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to get destroyed. I think this is one of those where if you had started Matt Ryan this week, I think you would have gotten negative points.
You definitely would have.
So I hope it works out for you. I mean, I insulted basically the Dolphins defense last week, and it worked out for you. So we'll see.
That's true. But anyway, that's our show for today. You have anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so.
Alrighty, then this has been Fantasy Fight Night. We're gonna get out of here. We will see you next week.
Peace.